This time I have a Hisense TV, and I know I say I don't like working on TVs. I don't like working on TVs, but some of these sets are actually quite easy to work on. So I'm going to show you guys a quick fix for one of these sets. Real common problem. Going to be backlights, obviously. Isn't that what always goes around with these new sets? This set's not even 3 years old. In fact, hasn't even had its third birthday from the time it was manufactured, which will be later this month. Let's check this one out. This is a Roku set. This is what is this one? A Hisense. This is a Hisense television that I got in to take a look at, and apparently it does not work. Thinking it's backlight issue. Let's turn it on and look with the backlight or the flashlight, and yes, we can see that it is a backlight because I just saw HDMI show up on the screen there when I tried to operate it. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but power. Where's the power button? It is the backlight that's out because I did see something on the screen. Try turning it on again. There, Hisense, right? So we have a backlight that's out on this one. We all know how well these units are made. They're all the modern sets. The LED backlights are the biggest problem on them. We'll pull this one apart, see if we can get the backlight running. I'm not going to change the backlights. If I can bridge a dead backlight to make it run, I'll do that. Other than that, this set won't be repaired just because they're not worth it. But let's start on it. We'll pull this one apart, see how difficult it is to get into. When the screws come off, it reveals this is all one piece. This is just metal that's painted black. This is the entire back of the set. We've got a circuit board with our circuitry on it, and we've got our tabs on the bottom here for the connection to the panel. The timing controller and everything is built right in. That would be a function of the main board on this one. So pretty straightforward. This is similar to that RCA set that I've got that I fixed a while back. That's mine. So I guess first things first, I'll remove the bezel. There'll be screws along here to hold the bezel on. Get the bezel removed, and then I can work on disassembling the screen, removing the screen, and finding the backlights that are bad. We can verify that there's voltage here, that it's not the power supply. That's why I pulled the back off, so I can see if we've got power getting to the backlights. If we've got high voltage going to the backlights here, then we know that the power supply is okay, and it's the backlight itself that's at fault. So I'm going to turn the set on and measure. You can see there's 122 volts there now. It's not even on. Let's turn the set on. Okay, let's turn it back on. So it starts up like 190 odd volts, and then it shuts down. Why it's doing that is because the backlight's not coming on, and the set is sensing that the backlight's not lighting. It's going into shutdown. So we know the problem is the backlight on this set, like it is on all of them. That's but the only thing that ever goes wrong on these modern sets is the backlight fails. I guess I can just unplug them down here. Get the speakers out of the way. You got to get the bottom strip off the bottom of the set here, and then the bezel off so that I can remove the tabs, or the circuit board with the tabs on it, I should say, and lift the screen apart. This is always the fun part, getting the screen apart without breaking it. Bottom piece comes off. I believe the whole back will lift off this panel if I pop it out here. To be able to lift the, hopefully the screen will stay in this front piece. I can just lift the back off of it with the lights on it. think if I pop these clips down, I could probably remove the back without having to separate the screen. I haven't taken one of these apart before, so this is new to me. But if I can pop these clips out and just lift the back away from it, that would be great. I don't know if that's how this comes apart or not, but it looks kind of like the back will separate and leave the screen behind. Maybe not, but I might be in for a shattering experience here. It kind of looks like the back clips on. Let me just get my little spudger or something in here to hold the corner up so that I can work my way around. Never find the screwdriver I'm looking for when I'm looking for it. There, that's a flat blade. That's what I was looking for. Just something to hold this so that I can pop the rest of these clips out. You can lift this whole backlight off of the rest of the set. Could it be that easy? Open these ones up. Might be just that easy. Holy crap. These ones might be easier than some of the other ones. Just put something there to hold that and work on the other side. Kind of looks like the whole screen assembly will remain in its bezel, and I can just lift the back off of the set, which would be the perfect solution, because then I can put the whole screen with the bezel and the diffuser and everything still stuck to the screen, get that out of the way, and then I can work on the panel itself. But it looks like I should be able to lift this up, work on the clips on the other side. Once I've got them down, it should just lift right off. Once the panel is released from the back, I've got it shimmed all the way around. It should be able to just lift the diffuser assembly off, and the panel should stay behind. You gotta be very, very careful with these tabs here. If you just so much as breathe on them, they're gonna break. So I'm gonna try to get this apart without touching the tabs themselves. They should stay behind. Okay. There we got the panel. We got the light assembly separated from the rest of it. Now I'm going to put the screen in a safe place so that I can work on the backlight. And the safest place for the screen is actually outside. Okay, now I can remove the diffusers, the diffuser sheet from the actual screen itself, or the actual cabinet, to reveal, in this case, it's just two strips of backlights. So get the diffuser out of the way. Okay, our problem is going to be one of these backlights is shot, and it's only going to be one of them, more than likely, that's gone bad, because they're all wired in series. So we can measure them individually with my meter. We'll pull this other sheet out of the way here. Probably should take these out. These little standouts for the diffuser are just held in place by small screws. Oops, lift these out of the way. And then the white sheet, which is stuck down with double-sided tape, it should lift off okay. These out of the way. Taking some of the tape off already. This will just peel off. Stuck down in a couple places, but that's okay. It will come off. Okay. There's that stuff all the way.
Look at the back. They literally just stamp these out. One sheet of steel, put it in a press, they'll punch the holes and stamp the chassis out.
Now we can check the individual LEDs, as there's a connection point here that I can test them all with the meter one at a time. Yeah, someone's going to say, why don't you get an LED tester? Because I'm cheap. That's why. I'm not spending money to buy an LED tester, even if it was only 20 bucks, because there's no money in fixing LED sets, as anybody knows. This one here, I have a limit of 100 bucks for everything. That's why the LED strips will not get replaced. If I find one that's dead, I'm just going to put a jumper wire over it, because the rest of them will work. And for those that are going to say the other ones, the life will be cut short, I have one that I did in 2015 that gets used all the time, and it still works. I have another one that I did about 6 months or so ago, maybe a little longer, that I use as my camera monitor, and it runs 24 hours a day, and it's never shut off with one LED bad on it. So one or two, you could bypass half the LEDs, and it would not affect the operation, because the power supply is current limited. So it will automatically adjust the voltage based on the current requirements. It can run from 1 to 100 LEDs basically, and it'll adjust the voltage accordingly and keep the current at the proper current for all the LEDs that are in series with each other. So let's find the one that's shot. Can test them all with the meter, and of course they will light up slightly as well. When I put the meter on it, we'll see some light out of the LED when it's working. Like this one here is lighting up slightly, so we know that this one works. Of course, another way to do this is I've got my 3 volt power supply, actually 3.0 volts. I'm limited down to about 30 milliamps. Although we're not going to leave these lit up for any length of time, we're just going to go through and test them all one at a time and see which one's out. So that one's good. That one's good. Makes it real easy. That one's good. Which one's this one on? Is this on that? That's on that one there. Yeah. This one will be on that one. That's good. That one's good. That one's good. Wait a minute, my strip is underneath here. Peel that back. My positive lead is right there. That one's good. That one's good. That one's also good. This one is not lighting. This one here looks like it's this one here. See, because that one lights. That one doesn't light. That one lights, and there's a new one on the end here that lights, and we'll do the same for the top row. But it looks like right now it's just this one right here that's dead, and we'll just put a jumper wire from there to there to bypass this LED. But let me do the same for the top row. Let me just check to make sure that they're all okay, because generally it's just one that has gone dead, and it kills the entire panel. So on this one might be the opposite way. I think this is the opposite wired. So that one lights. 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 See, these are all good. Just going to be the one that went dead. Now, I've talked about this before, and I get tired of talking about this with people because people just don't seem to get it. Positively, that one. There we go. And and the last one over here. Again, I gotta peel this back. And that one works. Okay, so we've got one bed LED. And I've gone over this with people before. Everyone's got different opinions. Why didn't the manufacturers do this? Why didn't they put them in parallel? Why did they put them all in series so that when one burns out, they all go dead? And I've had this discussion before with people. There's a reason that they've done it this way. One is Well, cost is one, but safety is another. You see, in order to wire all of the LEDs in series, or I'm sorry, in parallel, you would need to have a 3-volt power supply, but you'd have to have enough current to power all of the LEDs individually. So you're only going to have 3 volts. Right now we've got a couple hundred volts here at 20 or 25 milliamps or whatever the maximum current rating is on these LEDs. They might be a little bit higher, but you got however many LEDs you've got in series added up, and that'll give you your voltage. I'm not telling you the voltage on this because every panel is different. It all depends on how many LEDs. But you've got your current limiting it, 20 or 30 or 40 milliamps, whatever the current is, it's going to be limited. And you only need very, very thin wires for that, because it's not the voltage, it's the current that determines how heavy the conductor needs to be. And at very low current, you can deal with a very, very fine wire. To do the same thing with the panel LEDs wired in parallel would require a 3-volt power supply, but it would be several amps in terms of current, because each LED, if it's going to draw, if we said, if it was, say, 25 milliamps, right, per LED, so that would be 100 milliamps, 200 milliamps, 300 milliamps, 400, half an amp, 6. So you need 700 milliamps at 3 volts. This is a small panel. Obviously, panels with more LEDs would require more power, but maybe an amp might require an amp. Larger panels would require more. That would require a heavier conductor for one. But here's the problem: when an LED fails, there's 3 ways an LED fails. One is that the phosphorus burns up on them and they revert to blue. That's one way, but that's not a failure. The LED will still put out light. The 2 electrical ways that they can fail is they can go open or they can short. So if you had your panel wired in parallel and you had an LED that goes open, no big deal. That LED goes open, it stops working, the remainder work. If you have an LED that shorts, now you're in a different situation, because you've got a power supply that can create a lot more current. So an LED shorts, and either you have to have a fuse for each LED that will pop, or the power supply is going to go into overcurrent shutdown, and the result is going to be a dead panel. You're not going to have any light. Probably shut the entire set down in that case. But that's the situation. In parallel, if one shorts, you're into an over shutdown situation, or they have to fuse each individual LED. And if they fused each individual one, then that fuse would pop and the panel would operate. But again, adding an extra fuse or circuit protector for each individual LED would add a huge amount to the expense in making the set. So they choose the other route: high voltage, low current, LEDs in series. Now remember, I said the LEDs can either short or they can go open. If an LED shorts on one of these when it's in series, the panel continues to operate, just like it would if one went open in the case of a parallel wired LED. But of course, if one goes open, as it did here, it kills the entire display. So that's the difference. And is one more reliable than the other? I would say no, because if you wired them in parallel, you're either going to have circuit protection for each individual LED just in case it shorts, or it's going to shut the power supply down. So without adding an extra fuse for each individual LED, a single shorted LED would result in exactly the same thing as a single open LED on a series panel, a dead set. Anyway, let me get this one jumpered out. We'll throw this together and see if I can make somebody happy. Just prepping my little jumper wire that I can throw under the white diffractor. If I power the setup now, it should light. So we can certainly try that. Let's just get this out of the way. I'll hook up the remote sensor again and plug the set in, and we should see light from all of these lights. Okay, let's plug it in. It might even light up before I hit the button, depending on whether this thing remembers whether it was on or off. There we go. All the remainder of them work, except for the one that was causing the set to be dead. That one. So now time to put the diffuser back in. Standoffs lined up and put the screws back in for them. At least they didn't all fall apart like they did on that other set. Well, what was that? Was that a Samsung or an LG? That all the standoffs just fell apart on it. Remember that one? I'm looking for the one missing screw, and of course that's the one that found its way to the magnet. So these little diffusers, or I should say these little standoffs, hold the other diffuser at the right distance so that it doesn't bow in and distort the light. So now the other diffusers go on top. And then the screen goes back on top of this. Once the three diffuser sheets are back on, it's time to reattach the screen. This is the critical part because remember those tabs. So I'm just going to lower the screen down over top. The car sounds like a jet engine taking off. The fan's ramping up because it's sitting out in the driveway charging. So it's cranking up the battery management cooling system. Hopefully this won't get damaged in the process, but we'll just try to very carefully align the screen up so that it'll snap over the back. The screen just snaps in place. Push all the clips back together. That'll hold the back on it. Now I'll carefully turn it over so I can reconnect the tabs. Being very careful not to touch them on against anything that can tear them. Turn the set over. Leave it hanging off the front of the bench. Get everything out of the way that could damage them, like power cords and stuff. Get the bottom clip in place. The bottom one's not quite snapped in yet. Okay, now take the circuit boards, the T-con boards, basically that's what these are. Slide them in. Same with this one. There. Okay, I'm not quite as nervous now because they are somewhat protected. Reattach the tabs to the main board. Reattach the speakers. Okay, I almost forgot. I got to put this piece on. I was wondering why this didn't clip in. It actually clips into this bezel that goes on the front here, which I got put on. That's what protects the tabs from being damaged. Okay, that's better. I was wondering, it didn't look right. I was looking at something. What's covering up these? It's not the back. And I remembered, oh shoot, there's that extra piece that other TVs don't have because that's part of the screen. That's what makes these ones not so bad to service. I don't mind doing the LEDs on a set like this because this set is actually not too hard to take apart, unlike some of the prior ones which you had to do a whole ton of disassembly and then had to lift the screen out. Lifting the screen out is no fun, but on this one, because the screen itself was actually attached to three of the four sides, it actually came out pretty easy. Now the remote sensor has a place to clip in, and I can now put the back on the set. The back should just slip over the back of it here and be held in place by a few screws. So it just drops in like this. That's pretty much it. A few screws to hold the back on, and then we're good for testing. So if any of you are a little bit curious as to when this TV was manufactured, it was manufactured on June 28, 2020, and today is June 6th, 2023. So it didn't even make it 3 years from the time it was manufactured until it failed. Let's check it out and see if it fixed it. Yes, it's gonna work. Do you see the LEDs that's bad? Well, it's down here somewhere. I don't see it. Looks damn good to me. Let's hook it up to a source. See how it looks. So I'm gonna try. I got a USB stick plugged in here. I think it'll do USB. Yeah. This is a 4K set, so let's just see whether it will play my 4K file on the Roku media player that's built in to this set. Okay, let's see here. Video. USB drive. There should be two folders. Okay, so I got some HD stuff and I got a 4K fireplace. Play. And there it is. That actually looks pretty good. I should throw some other 4K content onto this stick. But for this looks fantastic. Let me stop it here. Where do I stop it? Go back. And we'll go down to this is an HD file, this one. This was only shot in HD, this aquarium, but it's a 4K set and it looks damn good, except for the pixelation there. I guess reading off the memory stick, it must have been a little bit slow.
If you're noticing it's looking a little blue, that's the nature of LEDs. They gradually start to turn blue. And this one's already started to go. What's white is looking blue, and it'll continue to get worse as it ages.
I should load this file in 4K is what I should load. This was shot in 4K. I should load that file in 4K and see how it looks on the set. It should look pretty good. Anyway, you don't see with that LED that's dead. You don't see it. This was the fireplace at a resort that I was at a few years ago down in, this would have been, I think this was in Oregon. This was along the Oregon coast when I was down there on a holiday, probably 6 or 7 years ago, I guess. And trying to think what year it was. It's probably 2016 maybe. So it was in the end of the summer, but it was just a miserable day. And the wife said, "Oh, we got a fireplace in here. Let's light the fireplace." Okay, so we lit up the little wood stove in our. We had a little cabin, and I got the camera. I thought, I want to film this, so I got out the camera and set it up on a tripod and just filmed it in 4K. And then we had to be really quiet because we didn't want any we couldn't talk or anything while I was filming it because I wanted the sound of the fire. But that actually looks. This TV doesn't look too bad at all for a basic TV. I think the owner of this one will be happy to get it back. So anyway, that's how you fix when you have bad LEDs. You don't need to replace them. And you certainly are not going to replace just one, because then you'll have one that is a different color temperature than the rest of them, because they do start to blue as they age. So you'll have one that's completely different, and you'll have a hot spot too, because again, they all light emitting diodes start to lose a little bit of their luminosity as they age. So if you put in one brand new one, you're going to see it. Plus the fact you got to remove the lens from it to do it, and getting the lenses realigned without creating hot spots is another issue. So if you get a one or two LEDs that go bad, just bridge over them. It's not going to affect the life of the rest of them at all. And if anybody says that it is, then they really don't know what they're talking about, because the power supplies in these televisions will all compensate for a different number of LEDs. They don't have a different power supply for every single set. They're all the same, whether they use 50 LEDs or 100. The power supplies themselves all can put out up to about 280 volts or so of power. So if you've got a 50 LED string or 75 or an 80, they're all going to use the same power supply. It's when you get into the really large screens, then they'll typically have two power supplies, and they'll have a top set of LEDs and a bottom set of LEDs on two separate strings. But again, same principle. They're current limiting power supplies, so jumpering one or two LEDs is not going to hurt it. I think if we look back a few sets ago when I worked on a few TVs, there was a few that had an open LED, so I bridged it only to find out that there was like 5 or 6 others that had shorted and the set was still running. And then one finally went open and killed the whole panel. So we bridged that one and got the rest of the panel going. It looked like hell because there was like strips of them that were out. There was like 2 or 3 of them in a row that were out. So you could really tell that, and that was the one that all the lenses had fallen off as well. So I gave that set away because it looked horrendous. But this one here, it's fixed. Thanks for watching.